As Trump's Iran war winds down, is China quietly emerging stronger than ever on the global chessboard, setting up a new front of pressure over Taiwan while Washington deals with the fallout? Has Beijing just turned Trump's biggest Middle East gamble into a strategic disaster, converting U.S. pressure on Iran into fresh leverage for China across the Gulf and beyond? Is Iran now preparing to hand parts of its nuclear assets to China for safekeeping or leverage, while Trump looks on helplessly as his maximum pressure campaign mutates into Beijing's opportunity? If Pakistan is carrying Trump's messages across the region, yet Tehran still turns to China for any uranium transfer, does that show where Iran really sees its long-term security guarantees? Is China now beating America in this round without firing a single shot, using diplomacy, money, and nuclear leverage, while Taiwan watches nervously to see what a U.S. setback in the Gulf might mean for its own future? Trump set out wanting Iran broken and isolated, but has Tehran instead just handed China one of its biggest strategic victories, reshaping the balance of power from the Gulf to the Pacific? In a stunning geopolitical twist, Iran is now reportedly ready to move enriched uranium to China, raising the question of whether Beijing is becoming the real guarantor of any future deal. According to reports, Iran is seeking firm guarantees from China before moving ahead with any potential U.S. deal, suggesting Tehran trusts Beijing's backing more than Washington's promises. The claims, carried by Al Arabiya and based on unnamed sources, have not been officially confirmed by Iran, leaving open the question of how far these talks with China have really gone. All this comes as China's President Xi Jinping hosted Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in Beijing on May 25, adding another key player in the Iran-US-China puzzle. She has publicly praised Pakistan's constructive role in efforts to secure an Iran-US ceasefire, hinting that Beijing sees Islamabad as a useful bridge in this high-stakes diplomacy. During their talks, she called China-Pakistan ties unbreakable and described Sharif as an old friend, underlining just how deeply embedded Islamabad is in Beijing's regional strategy. Pakistan is among the very few states China labels an all-weather strategic partner across security and trade, signaling trust that goes far beyond routine diplomatic niceties. In response, Shehbaz Sharif called China and Pakistan two iron brother countries with a unique relationship, reinforcing the sense of a tight axis emerging around regional crises. Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir, recently returned from talks in Tehran, was also present in Beijing, raising questions about what messages he may be carrying between Iran and China. China's foreign ministry has welcomed U.S. Iran ceasefire discussions and urged de-escalation, positioning Beijing as a responsible power calling for calm while others trade threats. Beijing has also called for reopening shipping lanes through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible, highlighting its concern for energy flows and global supply chains. On May 25, spokesperson Mao Ning demanded a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire, urging all sides to keep the door to dialogue open rather than sliding back into confrontation.
China's position on the Iran situation is very clear. It is a conflict that should not have happened in the first place, and there is no point in prolonging it anymore. To find an early way to resolve the situation is in the interest of not only the U.S. and Iran, but also regional countries and the rest of the world. The recent ceasefire between the United States and Iran and their efforts to explore a negotiated solution have been welcomed by countries in the region and the international community. China has always maintained that dialogue and negotiation are the right path, while a military solution offers no way forward. Now that the door to dialogue has been opened, it should not be closed again. We must maintain the momentum of de-escalation, adhere to the overarching goal of a political solution, and through dialogue and consultation, reach a solution that addresses the concerns of all parties. We must reopen shipping lanes as soon as possible, respond to the calls of the international community, jointly safeguard the stability and smooth operation of global production and supply chains, achieve a comprehensive and lasting ceasefire at the earliest opportunity, and promote the early restoration of peace and stability in the Middle East and the Gulf region. Since the outbreak of hostilities, China has been working tirelessly to bring about a ceasefire and striving for peace. President Xi Jinping solemnly put forward the 4-point proposal for maintaining and promoting peace and stability in the Middle East. China will continue to uphold the spirit of President Xi's four-point proposal, work with the international community to provide greater impetus for peace talks, and play a constructive role in ultimately achieving lasting peace in the Middle East.
Her remarks came just as Washington claimed significant progress in diplomacy, raising the question of whether China is quietly shaping the terms while the U.S. does the public heavy lifting. Just a day ago, Trump said U.S. Iran talks are moving in an orderly and constructive manner, trying to project control even as new China, Iran rumors swirl in the background. He insisted he has told his officials not to rush into a deal, and that time is on our side. But does that still hold if Beijing is the one Tehran is really waiting on? However, Iran has cautioned that no deal is imminent despite recent progress, casting doubt on how close any breakthrough over the war and sanctions really is. Tehran says the talks currently focus on ending the war, not on detailed nuclear questions, leaving the most sensitive issues, like uranium stockpiles and possible transfers, still hanging in the balance.
We are currently focused on the negotiation process. How the agreement will be announced or signed is something that can still be decided later. As for whether delegations will travel to Tehran again, or vice versa, yes, that remains possible if necessary. However, under the current circumstances, we have not planned any trip to Pakistan, nor any visit by a Pakistani delegation to Iran. The focus of the negotiations is on ending the war. At this stage, we are not discussing the details of the nuclear issue. Threats, pressures, portrayals, and publishing caricatures are part of the political maneuvering on that side of the world. We pursue our work in the field of action. We see the realities, regardless of the perceptions and imagery of the other side. It is true that we have concluded a large part of the topics under discussion. However, no one can claim that this means an agreement is imminent. We have not set a schedule or specific timeline for finalizing agreement between Iran and U.S. Certainly, as the Islamic Republic of Iran, we will spare no effort to reach a result as soon as possible, one that secures the national interests and rights of Iran and the Iranian people. For now, the exchange of messages between Iran and the United States is being conducted through the Pakistani mediator, and there is no perceived need to hold an in-person meeting. Whenever we reach a final conclusion and consider it necessary for exchanges to take place in person with Pakistani participation, we will arrange that. Given the overall circumstances, this trip will not take place. We also ran into a problem with a U.S. visa. I understand the Security Council meeting was scheduled for tomorrow, Tuesday, so the trip is cancelled. We do not collect fees at Stereo of Hormuz. There is no toll. In my opinion, one should be careful with word choice. We are not trying to charge a toll. Regarding the Strait of Hormuz, we are not going to discuss the details in this agreement. How the Strait of Hormuz is managed is a matter for its coastal states. Of course, we are also in contact with many other relevant countries to establish a mechanism that both ensures the safety and security of transit through the strait and best serves the interests of the international community. Any hostile action, Europe's new sanctions on Iran for blocking the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz, will certainly be met with a reciprocal response from Iran. You cannot unilaterally impose illegal measures on a country and expect the other side to stand idly by. The Islamic Republic of Iran is certainly not powerless. Fundamentally, if the European Union had long ago taken a responsible stance toward international development, perhaps some of the consequences our region and the international community are facing today would not have occurred. Of course, we spend some of our money on missiles and drones, because if we didn't, our enemies could achieve their goals, as we've seen many times in recent months.
Iran is now openly linking any U.S. military move in the Strait of Hormuz to the risk of a nuclear escalation, warning that actions at the choke point could trigger consequences far beyond conventional confrontation. A senior advisor close to Mojtaba Khamenei warned that America risks provoking a massive escalation if U.S. forces enter the Strait of Hormuz, suggesting the stakes could rapidly spiral out of control. Iran has threatened painful retaliation against any aggression and has hinted it could quit the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty amid rising Gulf tensions, heightening international alarm over a possible nuclear dimension. Rizai further asserted that Iran has the legal right to manage and secure the Strait of Hormuz, framing Tehran's moves as legitimate defensive measures under international and domestic law. Tehran claimed that control over Hormuz would mark the end of what it calls 50 years of Gulf insecurity and instability, casting its actions as a historic correction of regional power imbalances. Iran blamed Israel and what it calls the Greater Israel Vision for much of the Middle East's instability, using the allegation to justify its regional posture and rally domestic support.
Security is important to us. Managing the Strait of Hormuz is our legal right. If you decide to attack the Strait of Hormuz and enter the Persian Gulf, first of all, you will face an exceptionally difficult and painful response. Secondly, we will break the naval siege that we have been patient with so far and have not attacked you. But more importantly, I tell you that we may withdraw from the treaty on the non-proliferation of nuclear weapons. Do you know what this threat means? What will happen to you if we withdraw from the NPT? So turn back from this path. This is the final stage, which, by the grace of Almighty God, will determine the fate of all these 47 years, ensuring that we will have security in Iran for the next 50 years. Why should Iran be the one to manage the Strait of Hormuz? Because we don't want a military invasion in the Persian Gulf. We have stopped the invasion. We have stopped the insecurity. The Strait of Hormuz is closed for prevention of insecurity and military invasion, to stop creating another war in the Persian Gulf, whether against Iran or against other countries. Strait of Hormuz is closed. Yes, the Strait of Hormuz is closed in that sense, but for free trade, it is open. On the one hand, we have our finger on the trigger for the fourth battle, the fourth Karamshar, name given to battles in the recent war. On the other hand, of course, our officials are also negotiating to precisely restore the rights of the Iranian people. That's the situation we are currently in. About negotiation, the Islamic Republic has put the least costly path before you. The Islamic Republic is telling you that if you continue the war, we will make the American people miserable and the American economy miserable. Iran is here for a fair negotiation with you. You, the United States, are the ones who martyred our supreme leader and dear commanders, that we are still talking to you. You should consider a valuable opportunity for yourselves.
Meanwhile, Tasneem News reports that a negotiated U.S. Iran agreement could restore normal shipping traffic through the Strait of Hormuz within 30 days, suggesting diplomacy could quickly ease the commercial disruption if both sides choose to engage.